Welcome, and let's get started on this pre-assignment training. I'm Brian Wood, anchor reporter for KIRO TV in Seattle. With more than a decade of covering crime and security news, I have the good fortune to host this session. And let's begin at the beginning. On January 1st, 1992, a new state law hit the books in Washington, regulating the licensing of private security officers and private detectives. The law, Washington Administrative Code 308-18-300, requires background investigation plus specific training and testing for each security officer and private detective within the state. Each security officer must undergo a minimum of 4 hours of pre-assignment training before legally being allowed to work for any contract security agency. Now, the driving force behind this effort is the Washington State Security Council. It's a nonprofit association of security business operators, and the Washington State Law Enforcement Executive Forum. Washington State is a national leader in offering this level of training. What you are about to see is the result of the private security industry and law enforcement working together for your safety, the safety of the client, as well as the general public. It is this idea of working together that is a theme here. Your job is to follow the rules, and the police are there to help you see that everyone else follows the rules too. So now, on to the business of training, beginning with the right tools. Do you have a pen and paper to take notes with? The training information you are now about to receive will be provided to you in a 4-hour session. That will be broken down into 4 sessions of about an hour each. Each of those 1-hour sessions will include several segments which cover a selection of topics. At the conclusion of each hour block, there will be a panel session critiquing and going over a few of the points that you saw in some of the segments. At the end of each hour, you will have an opportunity to take a 10-minute break. Well, if you've made it this far, you probably know how to deal with a VCR. But in this training, we want you to be able to pause when you need to go back and review something that's been said. For that reason, make sure you understand how to deal with all the key buttons on this machine. If you haven't been told how to operate the VCR, find that stop button now and ask the supervising instructor. This is important because if at any time during this instruction period you did not understand just exactly what the speaker was saying, you must stop the tape, rewind, and listen as many times as you need so that you have a full understanding of the information you're being provided. Treat this tape, if you will, kind of like a book. Flip back to review a section of information. It will be your first test of inquiring and obtaining the information you will need to perform your new job professionally. Don't be bashful, especially if you're watching this in a group. You can bet that if you've got a question or you didn't get what was just said, there are others who didn't get it either. If you are too bashful now to ask one of your own classmates to sit for a second while you replay the tape, then how are you going to approach a stranger and ask to see their identification when you're on the job? So put the tape on pause and replay it when you need to. Once you've got it, and everyone else does too, then you can move on, but not until everyone gets it. If there is any confusion, immediately see your supervisor. Or write down a note about it now so that you can follow up with your supervisor later on. There are no exceptions to this training rule for one very good reason. There will be a test at the end of each section. All the more reason to work that pause and rewind button until everyone understands the information. A couple of additional thoughts before we jump into this training. This presentation, Security Officers Basic 4-Hour Pre-Assignment Training, is just a beginning course. In no way is this information the only training necessary for you to properly function in this field. Statements you are about to hear on this tape are not to be considered as absolute actions for you to take in every situation. Each individual encounter may call for different or additional actions. This presentation is an overview of generalities. Each action that you take will be viewed differently. Your certified instructor is responsible to see that you receive such specific training. You are responsible for knowing and carrying out the proper behavior for each action in which you engage. During this upcoming segment, we are going to look at several different subjects, such as the relationship of law enforcement, proper response to criminal acts, patrol techniques, observation techniques, and report writing. But right now, I'd like to turn things over to a man I've known and worked with for years. He's respected nationally for his leadership. Patrick Fitzsimons, the Chief of Police for the City of Seattle. The Chief would like to take a moment to help us understand the growing importance of security today and into the future.
Today, the security industry is 2.5 times larger than all of the federal, state, and local law enforcement operations combined. It's not likely that that growth is going to stop. We're looking at an ever-increasing population. The population is certainly going to be diverse, and we're going to continue to have crime problems, security problems, drug problems, gang problems, and law enforcement cannot do the entire job by themselves. As anyone knows that has been studying the growth of the security industry, you realize that a tremendous amount of professionalism is going into the industry. People are learning their trade. Police professionals, FBI executives are going into the industry as a second career. Security industries have their own detective operations, their own uniform operations. They are very much an adjunct of what local law enforcement does. In our jurisdiction, we already have special working arrangements with various security operations. Some of them are operating with police commissions. Some issue citations. But all have to work very cooperatively together, police officers and security officers. As you see the future unfold, you'll realize that more and more people will be asking for special security protection. Big companies will have their operations. Certain parts of cities will enter into negotiations with security companies. Certainly the alarm industry and the prevention of burglary and theft, all of those situations require trained professional security officers. The training that you're going to undergo is a basic course. It's a beginning. This is a trade. You have to learn it. You have to learn how to handle people. Communication skills are very important. The laws are many and are getting complex, so that a security professional has to practice continuing education, keeping up with what's going on. Not only do you have to know the operation where you work, but you have to know the big picture, and you have to really be very much a part of the police operation. We that are in the sworn side, in the public sector, will depend very much on these relationships for ongoing security and also for help in particular cases. Security officers can provide a lot of information by good reports, by what they see, by what they know about who can help or who can be witnesses. So this partnership is going to continue. Whether we like it, whether we don't like it, doesn't make any difference. People want and need security. They need public law enforcement, and many will undertake to have private security operations. We have to work together. If we do, the payoff is bigger and better in terms of keeping our communities safer. We will have to work together because there's limited resources in the prosecutor's office and in the courts. The information systems that we have will have to be shared so that we can increase protection. Law enforcement right now in the state of Washington has a forum of executives that are made up of the leading law enforcement executives from the public side and many of the security directors from many of the large industries and security firms in the state of Washington. Our common goal is to work together for the benefit of the public. In putting this organization together, we said that our goal has to be not taking care of each other so much as taking care of the public. That's the acid test. That will continue to be the glue that will be pulling us together. We can make it safer for everyone. We can make it safer for each other. We could make it safer for the people that we're serving. So I am very appreciative of the fact that you're undertaking this training, and I want you to know that the law enforcement fraternity considers the security officers a very important partner in what it is that we're all trying to do.
The next segment we will be viewing is produced and provided by the Tacoma Police Department. As the presentation begins, we will first hear from the Chief of Tacoma Police, Ray Fietland. Following that, we will hear from Wally Mason, training officer for the Tacoma Police Department, and his crew, covering several topics: techniques of observation, patrol techniques, relationship with law enforcement, and proper response to criminal acts.
The Chief of the Tacoma Police Department, Ray Fietland.
In the 1990s, more police administrators are having to redefine their mission, their role. The traditional serve and protect has been redefined into crime control and the reduction of fear. Businesses, neighborhoods, communities in general are finding new ways to reduce fear. Police administrators, police departments need new collaborations, new cooperations with neighborhood groups, and particularly with private security. This new invaluable resource, this new cooperative arrangement, has allowed a police administrator, a community, to add tools to the toolbox of protection and to find ways of reducing fear. The 1990s is a challenging time. All resources must be used.
The relationship between law enforcement and private security is one of long standing. The private security officer is often among the first at a crime scene or incident, and as such, the security officer plays a vital part in the prevention of crime. Because the number of security officers is so much greater than that of law enforcement officers, they are a very visible deterrent. However, it is important to remember that security officers are not police officers, so they must not act like they are. Security officers instead must often act as the eyes and the ears of police officers, and part of this is having a basic knowledge of laws and local ordinances in order to know when a criminal act is being committed. Not all criminal acts are robberies or burglaries. Improving the relationship between police officers and private security is best served by acting in a professional manner when dealing with the police. Do not allow jealousy to creep into that relationship. Do not be put off by the occasional discourteous police officer. Remember, they have a tough job too, and security officers can best help by offering useful assistance as needed or requested by law enforcement. It is also important that security officers provide accurate and timely information to law enforcement. Good note-taking, rounding up of witnesses, and preserving evidence all fall under the flag of professionalism. Many times, security officers will be called into court to testify about what they saw or heard.